Hello and welcome back to the For the Creatives podcast. I'm Elisha Taderera, and today we're getting right to the heart of what drives us as creatives. With stories of adventure, our guest David Pierson is here to inspire us to look beyond the ordinary. His journey takes him from sleeping in cardboard boxes for charity to flying drones off the edge of New Zealand. And he's really about making a difference. If you're curious about how to turn your creative pursuits into meaningful actions, this episode's for you. Let's dive in. Hello, David. How's it going?
Doing well, thanks. It's nice to be in the cozy little studio here.
Yeah, it's a nice small little room, humble beginnings.
Mate, but it's exciting to be here and just have a conversation on the For the Creatives podcast.
Yeah, well, welcome. When did we talk about doing this episode?
Probably a couple of years ago, actually. Yeah, I think we briefly mentioned to each other that it'll be good to connect and have a podcast together, but a couple of years passed but here we are now.
Well, glad to have you. Now, before I get into an introduction of who you are, I just have one question. So before any context of what you do, what is the craziest thing that you have done recently?
Craziest thing? That's a good one. Just trying to think. I mean, I've done a lot of crazy things.
Yeah. I can remember just off the top of my head, I think years ago, I think it was you slept in a cardboard box.
Oh, slept in a cardboard box.
Was that?
Oh, yes. Yeah, we did a live stream and we did, what did we do? We just slept overnight, to see what it's like living on the streets.
Yeah.
And we literally overnight, just to raise a bit of awareness and funds, sleeping out for the homeless for that night, and
yeah.
So that was a bit of a crazy experience and a bit of a taste to see, I guess, the experience would be if you were doing it rough. And since then, I've actually met some people that are on the streets and had some conversations. One of the probably a crazy thing is one time when I was in South Australia, there was a guy that I didn't even know he was homeless, but I said, hey, do you want to grab a burger, grab a bite to eat? And we kind of, shared a bit about each other and a bit of a story and things. And it didn't end up well in the end.
Yeah.
We kind of left on different terms, but it was good just to have a conversation with him and see where he's at. And,
Yeah. No,
that's cool. I don't know if that's a crazy story, but probably, I reckon New Zealand, probably the craziest things I've done, it would have been last year.
Yeah.
I was in New Zealand and I went all the way to the top of New Zealand, Cape Reinga, and there's a lighthouse there.
Yeah.
But then I was like, no, I'm just going to see how far I can get. And I went over the hill. Over there, there was a fence there. Not a fence, a
border.
Yeah, just some stone.
Yeah.
Walls to show the boundary of it. But then I just kept going and went over the edge, right off the edge of New Zealand. And then I flew my drone off the edge of New Zealand.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah. So that was probably a crazy thing. So.
Yeah, definitely.
So nearly slipped off the edge, but it was because it was wet and raining. And
they're the videos that I see on Instagram in the middle of the day, and I'm like, I want to be there. Yeah, that's awesome. So in this episode, I just want to have a chat about creativity, adventure, a bit of the balance that you might find with work and play, that work-life balance, and creativity in the digital space. So before we do that though, would you give a quick introduction of what you do?
Yeah, so my name's David Pierson, and I guess I'm a freelance filmmaker. So I run a video production business in Hervey Bay, and I create advertising, short videos for clients in the region to help promote their business in the digital space. And I also travel around. I've been around Australia and New Zealand. I service those areas with another company called U-Tour, where we film virtual tours for different schools, universities, and tourism destinations.
Yeah, great.
And an all-round just good guy. No.
But who are you beyond your job?
Just a humble guy. I think for me, I just love adventure.
Yeah.
Going traveling, camping, and exploring life, and really just seeing God's creation in nature, and just passionate about creating meaningful relationships and friendships with people.
Yeah, awesome. And on that, you started The Social Place a while ago. So The Social Place, would you say that's a culmination of all of that? Film, media, adventure, relationship building? How would you explain?
Yeah, so the social place has gone through a few iterations in the past, and I think now I've come to see that as, well, it's a YouTube channel primarily. That's what I'm focusing, just building that channel. And yeah, just seeing, just filming relationships, filming adventures and exploration. And I think, it's a tool as well. Like, what am I saying? It's
the YouTube, like it's a tool to reach people. To start.
So I think using my skills as a filmmaker and really filming like how I do relationships and how I do adventure and have fun with people. And that's kind of my outlet, my vision to show to the world.
Yeah. No, that's great. Around that, I have a question. Like, there's been a lot of talk in so many different spaces about the impact of social media and the impact of our phones on our mental health. How do you maintain a healthy relationship with technology in your personal and work life? Because I know that it sounds like there's a lot of overlap between what you do in your personal time with media, film, and what you do with work in that space. How do you find that? Do you have a balance?
Yeah, I think the kind of my view on social media and media content and all that is, are we consumers or contributors?
Love that.
And like, I've definitely been on both ends of the scale where I've consumed a lot of content, social media content, and not contributed. And I think in the recent kind of year or so, I've seen the platform like social media and all those spaces as a place to be able to contribute meaningful content. Yeah. And of course I do it for work and business and all that, but I think even for myself and like, what messages do I want to share with the people? Yeah. And so I remember not too long ago, I've traveled all around Australia, New Zealand, different cool locations, and experienced amazing things like campsites and waterfalls and all these adventures. And I've kind of just filmed all this content but left it on the hard drive. Yeah. And I think leading up to that, I'd been probably consuming more content like travel content or videos on social media. And there was this one day where I felt it was like, it's time to start contributing content. And my view with the content that I put out there is I want to encourage people to hop off the devices and go out and exploring and build relationships with people in reality. And I think there's definitely that line with social media where we can replace meaningful relationships with a phone screen. Yeah, for sure. And I think because of some of the extreme sides of that we've seen, you have a lot of people who sometimes have a really negative view on social media or on digital devices. So I have a question around that. Do you think we can actually make a difference and impact people through the content we post on social media? Yeah, I think it's definitely, we can, but it depends on the content that we're posting. Yeah. Right. And I think, like my Monday morning coffee. Hey, I mean, that's an inspiration for people. It's like, what are people doing in their lives, Yeah, fair. And what sort of coffees are we drinking? Yeah. Yeah, I think it's interesting. What was the question again? About, can we contribute? Yeah, like, do you think the content we post can actually make a difference? Like, you might share a video, film a video about something and post it, and you might have like 100, 200, 3,000 people see it. Do you think it actually can make a difference in their life? Yeah, I think it's really what's the heart behind the content that we post. Yeah. And I think for me, I want to be able to be posting content that really helps people in life and contributes to their own walk. And I think through filmmaking and building relationship with people, that's the sort of content that I'm wanting to post to encourage others to maybe step out, grab a camera, do some filming, or catch up with a mate and do adventures. So I think it really depends on what is the sort of content we're putting out there. What's the heart behind the content? Yeah, that's what it is. I like that. But like, you see both sides of it, don't you? Like, you can get caught in the trap of scrolling on these social media platforms. And after the fact that you finish scrolling, you're like, you get, like, for me, if I'm scrolling, I get a headache. And it's like, what sort of content am I consuming? Yeah. And is it helping me to better myself in life, or is it making me just sit on there and can consume that sort of? Yeah. And you said contributors versus consumers. One of the notes that I had down earlier today was contributors versus passive spectators as well. It's like, and I think
that's how a lot of people sometimes just walk through life, is they're just being that consumer, being that passive spectator to everything, and just allowing themselves to be influenced by all this content, whether it's in real life and the people around them or on social media. And I think that idea of being a contributor, for me, I see this active participant, this active person in life, whether it's through creating content on social media or in how they just show up in general. And I think we all have, which you probably would agree with, we all have something we can give, something we can share. So I really like that idea of a contributor, an active participant.
I came to the realization one day when I went out camping all by myself and I stripped away the influence of people, social media, and it was scary because I'm like, man, who am I? Because I've done life, and maybe this is why I'm passionate about building healthy friendships and relationships. I've done life with people, but it's almost like they were the ones that were helping drive who I am and not discovering my identity and who I was without people and social media. So yeah, there was a trip that I went around Queensland just solo all by myself. But out of that, I discovered, my identity and who I am and what I enjoy.
Yeah.
What I enjoy going out, exploring. And
how was that process? Like, how was it for you?
it was challenging. It was difficult because, leading up to that trip away, I had a relationship breakdown, work had slowed down and I didn't have much work. And I was basically sitting at home and I'm like, man, I'm feeling cooked.
Yeah.
I was on my own and I didn't feel good about myself. And I'm like, what is happening? And I realized that I had been almost relying on people for my joy and happiness. And so I just took that time to get out and explore and discover what I enjoyed for myself. And, we've got friends and we hang out with people and we enjoy things with other people, but I think it's important to realize if we enjoy it by ourselves as well as ourselves.
Yeah. Having that sort of strong personal foundation and then adding on the friends and the other elements and relationships.
Yeah. So I feel like I probably had that around the wrong way when I relied on friendship. But then when I was able to be okay myself, then I can build upon that, which is a solid foundation.
Yeah. That's great. Thanks for sharing that.
It's all right.
So talking about how the content we post can affect people, have you had any story or conversation that comes to mind with someone that has seen something you've posted or created online and they've shared that it's impacted their life to some degree? And this could be a Facebook comment, it could be a Facebook image, it could be a YouTube video. Does anything come to mind there?
Yeah, I remember back in the early days when I wrote, it was interesting. I wrote a Facebook post and I think I said, what's something encouraging that we can say to one another? And I had a lot of comments, heaps of comments. And out of that, I created a video about how we can be contributors to social media in that
I remember that. I remember that video. Yeah.
So, and I had so many comments. And then what I did was I grabbed these comments and wrote them on sticky notes. And I just talked about how we can encourage one another using this platform like social media. And what did I do? Yeah, I had all these sticky notes on me. And I put all these sticky notes on me. And then in the video, I took them off and read them to the scrine. And I was staring at the camera, but I was I wanted to connect with the audience, and connect with the people that were watching it. And that video, when it was posted, I just had a lot of positive response of it. And I think, that was really impacting in a positive way.
Yeah, that's great. That's a really good example. Yeah, it's crazy. We can just comment or post anything on social media. You see it on all the Facebook forums for whatever area you live in. And there's just so much negativity, so much hate. People just, it seems don't think about what they're posting. And talking about being that active participant in life, but in content and social media, we're actively participating by sharing all this and sharing all this negative stuff. What's the purpose of it is what I think sometimes, all the negativity and the hate comments and stuff. So it's great when there's encouragement and
Yeah, and I think I think it's a reflection of like how personal lives are going with the stuff we put online. And I think social media is just a tool. Like I see it's a tool. And, the way that we use it, for me, it's like it should be like an outflow of what we're already doing.
Yeah.
Like for an example, we're going on a camping trip over the weekend, and like we'll have cameras and be shooting some content there, but making sure the content capture is a byproduct of the enjoyment and the fun that we're having.
Yeah.
Just to capture that. So I think, primarily building relationship, building friendships, enjoying our time together, and then having these tools to capture and be like, hey, being encouragement to others. It's almost like sharing the story of us doing life, doing a journey, and encouraging others online. They say, hey, you can do this too, and you can get out and explore an adventure.
I've been loving the word narrative. There's a guy, Shane Willard, he's a pastor, and he uses that word a lot and around storytelling and stuff. And I think like you're presenting a different narrative to people by posting that adventure footage, posting that sort of even the everyday stuff, but posting that more positive or uplifting. It's real as well. It doesn't always have to be positive, but it's that real, authentic stuff. You're showing people another narrative. You're being like, hey, inviting people to step into that world, which I think is amazing that we can do that. And, you've probably seen it. You can post something and it can show up on someone's phone in the Philippines. It's crazy.
Mm. Yeah, I think it's good. Like in this world, we've got so much access to the globe with our phones, and someone can we can post something here where we're sitting, and they can be seen around all the globe. So I think that's pretty exciting.
And we choose to rant about the Macca's worker who didn't put enough chips in our medium fries when we went through the drive-thru.
Yeah.
That's a literal comment that is stuck in my head that I saw on one of the local forum groups like a year ago.
Jeez.
In that moment I was like, what is going on in your life? Anyway.
I see these comments, right? Like these negative comments, and even like people take photos of other people doing things wrong where they could have had a conversation with them in real life about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of, if we're talking about like that social media and the way we're using it, I think why not just talk to them and have a conversation instead of blowing it up online?
And I think that comes down to like what you were saying before, is that really our actions and what we're doing on social media is a reflection of what's going on inside, or it's a magnification of it. And I think a lot of the times I've seen that, because I've been in that spot myself, maybe not taking photos of other people, but just that pouring of a lot of my own stuff on social media. A lot of the time I've found that it's people that are struggling with, their identity, or they're struggling with their self-worth. So it's like, oh, if I, show someone else that's doing worse, it makes me feel better. But as long as I'm not as bad as that person, which is sad, but it's a reality.
Yeah, and how do you think there are healthy ways to navigate that and to even identify if you've done it yourself, or someone, or even if for myself I've done it and then had to check, hey, actually what's going on here? Why am I posting this content? What would your advice be to people?
Yeah, I liked what you said earlier. What is the heart behind the content? And I think it takes a bit of time to figure that out for yourself. Like it takes a bit of self-reflection to step back a bit for a moment and be like, all right, how am I showing up in life? How am I showing up on social media? And then why? And actually, it takes a bit of work. Sometimes we need to invite other people into that process. I'm still going through that in different ways, but I had to do it at one point when it came to social media content, because like early on in my social media days, I found a lot of my worth in like the amount of Instagram likes I got, or the amount of people that reacted to something. And I was one of those keyboard warriors like years ago, even though I felt that it was for things that I was passionate about and I thought I was the good guy, but I was still just like slamming people down on Facebook. And a lot of that was just stuff that I had to work through inside. I think for me, it's come down to that self-reflection, figuring out, all right, what's going on? Why is this coming out? Yeah. And like then thinking when I am posting, what is the heart behind this content? When I go to post a story, we don't always have to be this in depth, but if we want to really take account of that at some point, I think it's important.
Yeah, 100%. And I think on the other side of that, I've seen people posting content that, like people that I know.
Yeah.
And they're, I guess, sharing views and opinions, which, well, I guess have a negative effect online. And I only recently commented on someone's post and really trying to break it down and explain like a few things of how they post and things. But for me, when I see something like that, I would want to try and take that conversation offline and maybe catch up with them and see, hey, what's going on here? You know, like just having it like a bit of care and compassion for them and trying to understand, you know, when I see something like that, and if they're in my close circle, I'll send them a DM and be like, hey, how's things going? You know?
And I think that's the important thing is, like you mentioned, close circle. It's having that relationship. Like, when we have that relationship, we have some level of influence. When we have that relationship with someone, we have that level of influence to be able to, you know, have those conversations and speak into someone's life, whether it's through message or in person. I prefer in person, but yeah. So talking around creating digital content and how that's a big part of your work, how do you maintain a healthy balance between work and play? And I don't know if balance is the right word. It seems to be overused a lot, but...
Yeah, I think that's a good question. That's probably something that I've always, trying to maintain that, you know.
I haven't found it yet. That's why I'm asking.
I think, I remember a season where I was like shooting commercial content for business. Yeah. And I just didn't have that passion. I was like, why don't I feel like doing this sort of work? And I realized, I took a step back and I realized that I wasn't being creative in my own space. Like I wasn't creating like my own content that I really enjoyed. Yeah. And out of frustration, it was coming through my work. And I think when you start feeling these things towards commercial side of things or businesses, then there's something lacking in your own personal life. Yeah. Yeah. So that's when I kind of strip back and be like, okay, what's going on here in that space? And it's like, I haven't created some of these like video montages that I enjoy and makes me like, excited, I think. Yeah. And I think it's just that part of creativity that was lacking. And I was trying to do it in the business world, but sometimes you get clients that you have certain limitations and restrictions that you can do. Yeah. And I think being able to know what you want for yourself, but then know what the client wants as well. Yeah. They have that separation.
I think just a personal example from this morning, I was getting ready to hit the day running, get into all this work. And I just looked at my list of jobs and I was like, I have no motivation. I feel drained and uninspired. So I was like, all right, I just took a step back and sat down for a moment. And then I started working on editing one of the last podcast episodes that's gone up. It's like doing some social media graphics for it and just like playing around with the description. But it was something I actually really enjoyed and it was something personal. I'm not making money from the podcast. It's not viral or famous, but it's something I enjoy doing. But stepping back and having a bit of that for me was play in that moment. I then was able to get into the work that I needed to do. And I was just more inspired. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a perfect example. I think that's a good.
It doesn't always happen, but it happened this morning.
It doesn't, but it does. Yeah. And I think like, what are the things that I enjoy? And it doesn't even have to be not necessarily doing creative stuff. Like I think for me, like going for bike rides, exercise, that stuff. Like I love riding my bike down the Esplanade in Harvey Bay and just like, I'm like something just, it's just, I know what I need, to I guess thrive and like going for ocean swims and things like that. And sometimes that's all like we need that to be able to function in other areas. Because if we don't fulfill our personal needs, then it's going to outflow negatively when it comes to even relationship, friendships and work.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I have one more thing I want to touch on. I've been in a lot of conversations talking about the importance of understanding our why on a personal level, but also on a business level. And it's something that most of us, I think, are still figuring out. But do you know what your why is? Like, why are you doing any of this? And you can share as deep or as surface level as you want to.
Yeah, well, I think that's a really good, important question, knowing our why. And like I've been finding even with businesses, when I do work with them, I'm like, hey, what's your why? Why do you do that? And that's something that really interests me because like we kind of work from our why, like what's our purpose? What's our, why we do what we do? And for me, I think it's taken some time like for myself and to get some clarity.
Some people don't figure this out till they're in their 50s. So
Well, I hope we can encourage people to figure out that why.
Definitely.
I think Simon Sinek, he's good. He's a good resource on finding your why.
Here's the golden circle, I believe, as well.
Oh yeah, I haven't really read too much about the golden circle, but yeah, I think for me the why. I'm always reminded. You see this? I got this flamingo.
Yeah,
shirt
wearing
on.
a flamingo shirt.
Yeah, because I love it because that reminds me of my why. And
you're doing this for the flamingos?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hashtag save
for
the flamingos.
Save the flamingos.
Hashtag save the flamingos. That might be the title of this
There we
episode.
go, save the flamingos. But yeah, I think the flamingo is such an interesting creature. And what the flamingos do, their behaviors, they basically go to the most they can go to the most toxic environments and dig down and find nutrients.
Wow.
And food. Yeah. So they can filter out through all the junk.
Yeah.
And find the good food to sustain them. And I think if we want to even zoom further than that on a faith side of things, I was looking up black flamingo. And I was just so interested with the color black and white. And I looked at the black flamingo. And the black flamingo was spotted in Cyprus. I think there was only one ever spotted in the Cyprus. And that's where Paul and Barnabas did their missions work. And basically in the New Testament, Paul and Barnabas were commissioned to share the gospel to the church and really bring a bit of correction as well to the church space. And so I think that's an inspiration for me to really, what the flamingo does is it draws out the gold. It draws out the gold. It draws out the good content, the good nutrients, and finds it and consumes it. But I think if I was to look at my why, it would be drawing out the gold in people. Yeah. And showing that and be like, hey, this is the gold in you. And that's in any space. Video wise, that's a tool. That's part of what I do. But if I can have conversations with people to draw out the gold in who they are, I think that is my why. And of course, we all have rubbish in our lives, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But if we can draw out the gold and help people to focus on their identity, who they are, their gold, then that rubbish will fall. Yeah. Because if they can focus on their gold, then it's time. The rubbish will go, I think. And there's different...
To the side.
Yeah, and I guess if we're looking from a faith perspective with our relationship with Jesus, he sees the gold in people. Yeah. God sees the gold in us. And I guess when we come to Jesus, he's like, I see this gold in you. But there's all this other stuff, through life or experiences that essentially is rubbish or things we don't need. And then we can go to him and surrender and release all the junk that we don't need in life. So the why.
Do you have any last thoughts that you'd like to share? So this audience is usually a mix of creators, entrepreneurs, and also just some everyday people that are looking for, we're all everyday people, but everyday people that are looking for some inspiration or to have some of these conversations. Do you have anything else that you'd like to share around all this?
Well, I think, probably speaking to the creatives. Yeah. I have a lot of people in my space, in my sphere that really want to step out and do a podcast, do a YouTube channel or put content out there. And I think a big thing stopping them might be some fear or not feeling they're good enough to do it. And I think I've journeyed through that myself, putting out content. And the one thing I would say is just take small steps. Take small steps, put that one piece of content out. If you want to contribute, and know your why. Know your why. Why are you doing this?
Know your why.
And then when things fall, because we can get caught up in the metrics of things, how many views videos get or our content. But I think if we kind of put out content knowing that our why is why we did it in the first place, then the metrics don't matter. Yeah. Because if we want to reach that one person, if we want to, for me, it's planting those seeds, planting seeds that will sprout up and people can see content that they consume and be encouraged. So I think if you focus on the why instead of the views and metrics, you're able to build something with good foundations. Yeah. And that's where the content itself will take.
Yeah, I love that. And I know I asked earlier, are there any stories that come to mind of people that have been positively impacted by something you posted? But the reality is that we probably won't know the extent. And this is true in what we're posting on social media, also true from a faith side of things when we're sharing the gospel and talking to people about Jesus. We won't probably ever know the extent to that, what we have shared with people and those seeds that we've planted, how it's impacted people. But yeah, I'm very, very strong about just, like you're saying, knowing your why and just being consistent and just sharing that message, whatever it is, in whatever format, however that shows up in your life. But yeah.
It's good. Did I explain that well, that last bit, I think? Yeah.
Yeah. And this is just a real conversation. So it's not supposed to be perfect.
Yeah. So, but that would be for creatives.
Yeah.
And use the tools that you got.
Yes. Amen to that. I used to think I needed all the best gear. I mean, we're sitting here now with $150, $200 mics, but yeah.
But you build on it. You know what I mean? And keep stepping forward, because then the gear will come, the better equipment will come. Where did I start? I started with a little DV camera, and it shoot HD.
Yeah.
But I was just keen and doing it. But then as I've progressed and kept stepping forward, all the equipment came. And that's what would that be, an after kind of thing? It's not the focus. That's what comes after.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even with camping and things like that. Now I've got a camper trailer, but
you were going camping without.
Yeah, exactly. Without
before.
it.
Yeah.
And then that's just the next progression. So I think, just take steps, know your why, send it.
Love it.
Go.
Send it. Well, thanks for coming on and just having a chat. I love how you said, what's the heart behind the content? That's probably one thing that stuck with me at the moment. And what are the things that I enjoy? What are the things that I enjoy? And doing more of that mixed around the work, because I definitely personally get stuck in the work side of things, because part of the work for me is play, but then at some point those lines get so blurred.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's been great, Elisha. So yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah. And we'll share the links to your profiles on, I was going to say the wrong platform. Sorry, I got distracted. We'll share the links to your profiles in the description and on social media, and might see you on here another time.
Yeah, sounds good. Looking forward to it.
Amazing. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the For the Creatives podcast. It was a pleasure having David Pierson with us today, sharing his incredible journey and insights. Remember, in a world where you can be anything, be a contributor, not just a passive consumer. Dive deep, find your why, and let it guide you in creating something meaningful. Until next time, keep creating, keep exploring, and never lose sight of the adventure. For more stories, please follow us at For the Creatives Podcast on Instagram. And don't forget to check out David's amazing work. There's links in the description. See you in the next episode.